If you had to only pick one, email or SMS, when it comes to retention, which one would you pick?
If we look at a brand's existing paradigm today, they probably have 5 to 10 times more emails than they do SMS subscribers. Across like any random brand, if they had to pick, it would probably make sense for them to pick email.
Yeah.
If I was running a brand and I had to pick between getting a consumer to opt into email or SMS, I'd pick the phone number, the SMS all day long because it's just worth so much more money.
Welcome back to another episode of Retention and Subscription, which is powered by Stay AI. Today, we have our lovely host, as always, Gina, and Alex Beller, who is founder, CEO over at Postscript. So to get things into gear, Alex, I want to start off with your intro. Give the few people who may not know you for some weird reason, give them a little bit of your background and what you're up to today, especially with how you're building Postscript.
Sure. So I'm one of the founders, and I'm actually technically the president of Postscript.
President.
My co-founder Adam is our longtime CEO. So we started Postscript about 6 years ago. This entire time we've been focused on doing the same thing we do today, which is building the world's best SMS platform for brands built on Shopify. There is so many exciting developments happening right now within the world of SMS. When I think back, like I met both of you years ago when SMS was just starting out. I remember Lunar Solar, I don't even think had a SMS SKU when we first met Gina. And it's really become mainstream. Yeah. And it's really, we're past the peak of like early adopters into that late majority now, where the majority of brands are operating programs. And with that has come a whole new level of rigor and a whole new wave of demand for advanced tooling, for AI benefits. And that's just a really exciting time.
It's incredible. And so, I think one of the biggest pieces that I've always been intrigued, and you kind of talked about this a few other times that I've either met with you or even when you were on our pod, is AI has been playing this like important role in what's coming, but it's also very kind of touchy where like can you do too much AI? Is it trustable, et cetera? And so I know even just our listeners, they just love the topic of AI today, as we all do. So, and Gina, I would love for you to touch on too with what you're doing with subscriptions and AI, especially with Stay AI being the name. But maybe can you guys both touch on where AI is sitting right now in both your guys' mind before we jump into the rest of the program?
Sure. So what our point of view is that there's like a couple of big buckets. There is predictive AI, and that's been around for quite a while, right? It's using machine learning to do things like predict the exact right moment to like send an email to this person or send a text to this person. That's been around a long time, and it's interesting, and it can drive results, but it's not like it doesn't double someone's results, anything like that. What's new is this whole world of generative AI. That's what we're seeing with ChatGPT and OpenAI and GPTs and Claude and everything around there. And that is new. And at Postscript, we're really interested at where those two things cross over, because we think that can lead to a world where the dream that's existed for a long time of actually sending personalized messages to each subscriber, to each SMS subscriber, I should say, can exist. And so you're going to see, anyone in the market's going to see a lot from us over the next couple months. We have some really exciting releases planned. We're in beta on a bunch of features. And it seems that with the fusion of these two and with everything new that's in generative right now, we're actually, we've unlocked a world where brands can see meaningful, measurable performance improvements with their programs. And that's really exciting.
It's incredible. Gina, what about you?
Yeah. Also, to that note, I just saw, what was it, yesterday on LinkedIn? All of the little like AI, whatever it was like a little man with little big eyes of just what you have coming. So now I was like, is he going to spill some tea that I haven't been able to see yet?
The teasers have started. We've got about a dozen brands in a beta, and the release is coming in July.
Okay, amazing. I was like, maybe we'll get him to spill the tea.
Yeah.
But all right, fine, we'll wait. I was pitched something the other day in our product meeting, and for me, it's a really interesting phase of the company that we're in. When we first started Stay, it was very like, Gina wants to build this thing, so we build this thing. And there's like one product person that kind of like refines like what Gina's come up with. And in the last like probably 6 months, we fully built out our product team now. And we're now at the stage where like I get to come into a meeting and they pitch me on ideas that I didn't come up with, which I'm like, this is great. I love this.
It's
and
healthy. That's
it is.
good.
It's very healthy. Like it's no longer the Gina show, which is very important. Yeah, it's no longer just Gina's vibes picking, which is good. But I got pitched something in the generative AI space over the past week. And they had really like thought it through. You could tell like the team like really all came together on this, and they were so excited to show it to me. And there was like, oh God, I can't talk too much about it, but it's a lot about like kind of helping you turn on different tools, powering like the different tools that we have, and oh God, this cute little character that they made that just like I absolutely love. I saw him and I was like, yes, like this is
AI has to include some character, right?
Oh
And
God,
so,
they just like went through a couple different
mascot,
yes, they like went through a couple different like phases of it, and then like I could tell that they had like saved the best for last, and then they like showed it to me, and I was like, oh my, I love him /her/it. But yeah, I can't get too much into it. Yeah, because we're in the very, very early phases. But
awesome.
Yeah, fully fleshed out.
It's good to see that like it is a part of both of your guys' systems to build something there, and you guys are obviously probably drawing on some sort of relevant usage, which is important. All right, so today some of the things that we're going to get into is the subscriptions do's and don'ts, the segmenting do's and don'ts, the email versus SMS and retention strategies. So I'm gonna kind of just start with a pop question for each of you. Obviously, the world of retention, whether you're looking at from subscriptions, email, SMS, etc. I think I know Alex's answer here, but if you had to only pick one, okay, email or SMS when it comes to retention, where do you start, and which one would you pick?
Go ahead.
No.
Hard question.
It's a hard question because like they both have their time and place. I think I default to email more just because of like the transactional piece, and I think I'm still sometimes like scared of oversending text and like, is this text transactional? And like sometimes I need to get a message to someone and I'm like, am I gonna get arrested for sending this? So I think if I like only had to pick one, I think I would have to go with email, but I'm hoping that Alex can sway me in his response.
Yeah, so it's a great question, Ron, stumping us. So here's what I would say. If we look at the like a brand's existing paradigm today, they probably have 5 to 10 times more emails than they do SMS subscribers.
Fair.
So today, across like any random brand, if they had to pick, it would probably make sense for them to pick email. Yeah. However, if I was running a brand and my lists were starting at 0, and I had to pick between getting someone to opt in, getting a consumer to opt into email or SMS, I'd pick the phone number, the SMS all day long, because it's just worth so much more money. It like is going to drive like more clicks on a consumer basis. And so like across a scaled existing business, you'd probably pick the email asset today. But in terms of if you could add a subscriber onto just one list, I'd pick phone because it just monetizes better.
Great answer. I think, Gina, you already kind of are hinting at this, which is like, I think I would text people too much, or I don't know the right piece. Jumps right into this concept of frequency, right? And I think frequency has been one of those things where you talk to 10 different people and they'll probably give you 10 different answers of what they feel is right. And I think there's obviously a little bit of, hey, you just have to test to find out. But I want to know from your guys' end, like, where does frequency sit? What is too many emails or too many texts? What type of communication layers do you need to set to kind of understand what frequency is right? And is there a right from a wrong in frequency? So would love to hear from both of you guys on how you see it.
Yeah. On the SMS side, what I see is that there's a couple pieces to this. The first is that in a very broad stroke, most marketers and most merchants are undersending SMS today. And we see that because unsubscribe rates are extremely low, revenue per message is very high. That points me towards there's like room to send more. There's also many examples of brands who are sending like 2 to 3 texts per day. Having said that, that's like specific businesses, right? Who have like very high SKU counts. They're releasing lots of new products. Maybe they veer more towards like retailer than like, 15 SKU brand. Right. They have a reason to be reaching out all the time. But there's many examples of that. There's a t-shirt brand who for years, a big one, has sent a text a day because everyone on their list wants to see the shirt that dropped that day because they release a new shirt every day.
Fair.
I guess my point is they have a reason to be texting that much.
Yep.
On the other end of the spectrum, there are brands who only have a single SKU. They should not be texting every day. They should or even close to it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that it really depends on the merchandising calendar, the product selection, the marketing calendar of that brand, along with the brand voice that would inform what the right frequency is. I know people really want like a broad stroke.
Yeah.
And like speaking to your subscribers a couple times a week via SMS is completely reasonable, especially if you have something to say, especially if it's like good creative. It's not just promos, but it's a mix of like content, product releases, automation flows, promotions, like all that stuff. It's completely reasonable to be checking in with them a couple times a week.
Fair. Makes sense.
Yeah. I think on a previous episode, I was talking about how, especially when you're getting people on subscription, a lot of the times, especially in like month 1, month 2, you have to train behavior to use the product.
Right.
You have to get somebody to start. Like, if I've never taken collagen before, it's like kind of crazy for me to just think, okay, I'm just going to start tomorrow, and every day for the rest of my life, I'm just going to take it. Like, you have to build that habit into somebody's day-to-day, where I've seen a couple brands do it really well with text, because it's just like that nudge of like, oh, like, did you remember to take your collagen this morning? After 1 week, this is what you can start to like expect to feel. This is what's going on. And maybe if you don't feel it, this is what's going on inside your body. And I think like when I'm trying to train myself to take a new product or like some new supplement or whatever, just over text, like that little bit of like that check-in could be super helpful, especially in the early stages of a subscriber's life cycle with you.
No, that's fair. I think even when it comes to like Obvi, right? I think we were at a point where when we had our collagen and like burn and all of our products kind of slinging at the same time, we were able to text more often because it was, like you said, we weren't a single SKU product, and we were able to draw on multiple reasons why we should talk to you. Whereas now, like 90% of our sales come from the burn, right? And it's like, that is, you're our consumer. And it's crazy because it's like, now it's hard for us to be like, why should I text you?
Right.
Makes
sense.
And I think like, you can come up with as many blogs and all that stuff, but like at the end of the day, if the product serves a single purpose, I also can't spin up blogs that have 20 different purposes of making that product work. I'm curious, have you guys drawn on some cool examples of maybe some approaches that seem a little bit more unconventional in terms of how people have made up for frequency outside of promos and the typical content piece? Is there ways, and I'm here to draw inspiration, like are there more ways for me to raise my frequency without looking at promo being the driver?
Right, especially because you're talking about like you have a hero product and really the primary business goal at that point is to like get people to continue to reorder it. But that still isn't like a text, 2 texts a week saying reorder. It's more slow. So one example that comes to mind is the Earthling company. Do you guys know them? Earthling?
I don't.
It's soap and shampoo and things like that. It's a quality brand. It's cool. And something that they do is they send out conversational campaigns essentially to ensure that they capture like zero-party data on all their SMS subscribers specifically for like what their problem is that they're shopping for. So like they have like a bunch of categories. They see most of their buyers who buy their hero product come in and they have like dry hair or like, damaged hair, things like that. And so they solicit in the welcome series and via follow-up campaigns, they say like, what are you here like trying to fix today? Something along that. And then when the SMS subscribers reply, that gets like tagged and associated with that profile. And they break out the content that gets sent to those subscribers across the entire customer lifecycle. So you're learning like an insight about this subscriber, you get them to buy, and yes, you want them to reorder, and so you're probably going to be running normal lifecycle messages around their reorder dates, right? To try to upsell them to a subscription. If they don't, like make sure that they don't churn off subscription, things like that. But mixed in, they're sending content or they're sending like upsell messages aimed at that use case that they know the consumer's trying to solve. So that's like a pretty advanced but pretty cool thing we're seeing.
Are they doing it using keywords or like just like, but the responses then like tagging people to get people in the right flows?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that.
Now, that's actually a really good example. I think one piece that's also really interesting is like, you kind of touched on a little bit, is like this theory of segmenting, right? It comes down to like there's so many buckets of people now, right?
Yeah.
So like even for us, right, you have people who've just bought, people who've bought 2+ times, 3+ times, but then people who have bought once but haven't bought in 6 months, but have bought 2 times before that. Like there's so much deeper segmenting. So I'm curious, like even just segmenting people who are on subscription versus people who are a regular customer, maybe buys every 45 days or 60 days, but not on subscription. Curious, even those 2 buckets, how would you cater to them different in messaging wise?
Well, jumping at segments, I also just want to preface, you can definitely over segment and you can under segment. And there is somewhere a balance in the middle. And sometimes I get into accounts and I'm like, okay, well, we're trying to do way too much here. So I think like striking the balance is important, and understanding like you kind of just like, if you're just starting out and you were just sending the, one basic post-purchase flow and you weren't segmenting anywhere, think about like one level of segmenting. Is it done by type of product category that people buy from you? Is it done by, how often they're buying? But don't just out the gates be like, okay, if you bought one time, you bought this one specific product, like you go into this flow, like you go into there. Because then
so don't be absolute about a lot of these rules.
I think not when you're first starting out. Like think scalable. That would be like my biggest tip to somebody just starting to segment. Like also think about your edge cases. What about people who buy 2 different products at the same time? Are they going to get thrown into 2 flow? Like what happens to them? So start to segment by one type of criteria. Then as you're going like through, I think like somebody who's bought more than once, somebody who's bought multiple times, I like to treat those people a little bit differently. You probably have to do more education around somebody who's just bought one time. They very likely could have just seen your ad on social, on TikTok somewhere, bought it at 11 o'clock at night because TikTok Shop got them. And then they don't really know anything about your brand, where there's more use for education there. Somebody who's buying a second time, it makes more sense to introduce more of your product catalog to them.
Makes sense. And now does that education messaging, have you seen anyone do a good job at like making that education messaging and angle vary from like the education and messaging angle that's going in the high frequency campaigning to just the broader list? Like I feel like when I speak to a customer for Obvi that just has been buying from us, educating them almost is like educating them on utility and consistency, versus like somebody who wants to buy Obvi but is still in consideration. Educating them is like, hey, this is why you need it, right? But I feel like sometimes there's laziness involved, 100%, but there's also just like, oh, you know what, this group is so small, like to put the resources and time to like recraft the message and rethink how to approach it. Like again, I'm curious, like are there ways to become more efficient there? Are there ways to break out messaging in those tiers? Or how have you seen anyone creatively approach segmenting and messaging together?
Sure. A couple things come to mind, but I think it really varies business to business, because there are instances where we see brands who have a big subscription component to their business, but like people on subscription also don't buy one-offs. We also see the inverse, right? We see people that are like heavy soap subscribers that are still also like buying like one-off other products and things like that. And I think that is really the fork in the road for the strategy you're talking about. Because if you have an active subscriber base who they aren't going to also buy one-offs, it's like just that product that they're on, then they need to be treated differently. Like you don't want to lose the ability to message them over SMS. If you're dropping them promos and they're an active subscriber, they probably will unsubscribe and turn off their SMS list. And you don't want to lose that touch point. So instead, in that point, even if the number's small, I think that's really worth carving folks out and treating them as like the active subscriber, VIP subset. Like you're saying, Ron, you want to talk to them about frequency. You want to like really bring them close and show them insights into the brand. But people who maybe they're active subscribers, but they can still buy one-off products. You want to include them with big promos and new product releases and things like that. The one other thing that comes to mind on segmentation that I think is so important, specifically speaking about Stay and active subscription programs that brands have, is how to upsell people onto subscription. And what I tend to recommend is creating a segment of people who aren't active subscribers but that have bought more than once. Those folks are like ripe to be targeted to upsell to a subscription.
That's right.
And I think even though the number of people in that segment might be relatively small, speaking to them regularly and trying to upsell them to a subscription is probably a low volume, very high value flow or campaign strategy.
Now, I want to double down more on segmenting for a minute. I think when it comes down to segmenting and what you're really trying to get out of it, right? Are there certain key metrics that are useful beyond just like the obvious ones, which is like conversion rate and click-through rate? Like, are there ways to measure that you've seen any brands be creative about when they're measuring how effective a segment is performing?
Sure. The thing that I'm seeing from the most sophisticated brands we work with lately is really the idea of like CAC to LTV being applied to their retention strategies.
Wow.
And so it's a little bit different, but it's more of an acquisition mindset where I think historically people were coming into retention with fixed budgets.
Right.
And it was like, I have $10,000 this month for retention, like I want to maximize it. And now as we're seeing a little bit more of an acquisition mindset, it's more about like, okay, if I can prove these purchases are incremental at a certain margin, how much can I scale this?
That's great.
And that's pretty different.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the new thing that I'm seeing, where people want to understand what is the lifetime value of an SMS subscriber.
Yep.
And if they get confident in that number, then they say, great, how high can we drive up that number and how many people can we add onto the list? And like there are all kinds of levers to impact that number based on how much you market to them and the costs with your SMS provider and all kinds of different stuff. But I'm seeing people really drill down into that for the first time versus here's our retention budget this month. And it's interesting. It's different.
Yeah. Any comments on your end?
I mean, I'm just, again, happy that retention's getting its time to shine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, anything to get rid of the fixed budget. Like,
it's so true.
Anything to get us out of, like.
I think I even see the trend in, like, from our end where, like, when we used to, like, reach out to an email marketing agency or an SMS marketing agency, it was like, oh, we'll spend, like, $3K. Like, our budget's like $4K.
Yeah, of course.
And today, I mean, we're extremely happy with our email agency, but they charge $12,000.
Wow.
Like $12,000, and like they're phenomenal, but like they're integrated to our team. Like they're on our product launch calls, they're in our all hands, like they're very integrated. But it's like now when we look at that monthly cost, I'm like, yeah, this is worth it because we have to make this work.
Sure,
it's the only way you can justify acquisition nowadays. And I think so for so long, retention has been expected, and not earned. Today, I think it's like you have to earn it.
Sure.
Because I think on the other side, the consumers are inundated, and you can't just chalk it up to, I think, competition. I think it's competition just from like even different industries. Like if I'm getting text messages from 7 different categories of products, I still only have a budget for XYZ. I totally echo that. I want to take some time to like, because you guys have such a cool view, and I always am jealous of SaaS owners, which I think you guys know, this is my way of being close to you guys. But you guys have such a cool view as to obviously what's working, and then I think that is, you guys have touched on some great things, but what I think is the cool part is what's not working. What are some mistakes people are making? Whether it's across SMS, email, retention in general, subscription setup. I'd love to extract at least a couple of mistakes you guys are seeing people make. You don't have to name the brands, but it would be good to understand relevant industries and stuff.
I can start. I would say, like, just it's top of mind because we just talked about segmenting.
Yeah.
Brands that over segment at the start and don't think about people who buy 2 products. Like there's been a couple times where all of a sudden I get put in 3 different post-purchase flows that all hit at the same time because I checked out with 3 products at once. And there's like no exclusion or like no thought of, like how that would work when somebody buys all these products at the same time.
And are you just turned off by that? Or like, what is it? Do you think it changes your buyer behavior the next time you think about this company, or are you just annoyed?
I think I'm annoyed. I don't know if I like wouldn't buy again. I think like there's a time and a place, and it depends. If there's supplements and I'm getting text that's like, okay, because you bought sleep, you should know XYZ. Because you bought like you should know XYZ. That is fine. But I think sometimes it's more like when I just like can almost tell it's a mistake, and I just get hit with like, thanks so much for your purchase of sleep. Thanks so much for where I'm like, I don't want to get this many messages a day.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. A couple of mistakes that stand out to me: people not prioritizing SMS list growth.
Yeah.
But we like still see that all the time. We still see it all the time. It's like a big problem.
Is there any case where it's like it doesn't make sense? Have you yourself given someone like, hey, yeah, this doesn't make sense?
There probably has on some weird edge case.
Yeah.
But like over 95%.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it makes sense. People should be growing their SMS lists. We're not trying to mess with like their email list as well. Like capture email first on your pop-ups, but like layer in SMS collection. It's incremental. It can help. We still see that.
Can you touch on that one piece? Because I think I even deal with like on my mentor pass calls with people who are like, oh yeah, like I don't know if I want to have a second pop-up or a follow-up thing. I think it just drops conversion, or I think people won't buy from me. It's like, can you touch on maybe some of those like those common fears that people have that are honestly just like not real?
So there's two buckets here. One is exactly what you're describing. That's like a common fear. And we just haven't seen an instance of it turning into reality. With some of like our biggest, most data-driven customers, we just haven't seen instances where adding a like second field to collect in a pop-up is negative value creation. We just haven't seen that.
Yep.
The other thing on the collection piece that we have seen a bit of is brands who want to avoid the opt-in modality that takes people to the text message app and sends the opt-in because they're afraid of taking people off site. And so I haven't and I've heard from multiple brands like fear and concern about that. And they've said that like they've studied it and they prefer to have like a different type of opt-in modality to avoid taking people off site.
Sure.
I think there's probably like validity to that based on the merchants I've spoken to.
Yeah.
But that's the fear that I view as valid in collection. But the one I view as invalid is not collecting SMS subscribers. That's negative value creation.
Fair.
I don't know. We tested a lot at Lunar Solar. I think one of the most shocking tests that we did at Lunar was that if you like our highest performing pop-ups when we tested email first, SMS for like whatever, was email, SMS together, and then 1 to 3 radio button questions to ask someone about themselves.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Which everyone was always like, oh, no, like that's too much friction. Like we can't have people fill out all that stuff. And we would just pick one as like mandatory. So like maybe just email was mandatory and the rest was optional to fill out. You could just click through to the pop-up. It was always, we tested it quarter after quarter because I was like, there's no way this must have been a fluke. This must have been some type of weird bias. But every time it worked.
That's insane.
People obsess about the idea of like removing friction and steps to drive conversion, but I've actually seen a bunch of that as well, where some of the highest performing pop-ups across the platform or across our customer base start with a question. They don't even start with like put your email in. It's like getting like people to click yes or something like that.
People love quiz flows.
Exactly. They love quiz flows.
They love to tell you shit about themselves.
So that's quiz flows are like legitimately like adding steps and adding friction, but it drives meaningfully higher conversion rate. So I think that we've probably over optimized to that idea of reduced steps instead of over optimizing towards just being engaging.
Yeah. No, that's incredible points. One question I do have is like beyond the pop-up, what are the top places you guys have seen collecting SMS or phone numbers be a good place to add resources and say, hey, build this out, or this is another good place? What is like that second to pop up?
I remember, I don't know if they still do this, but maybe you even remember this. This was back in, maybe 2018 when Super Coffee put the QR codes on everything for like some type of, save $5 off your next, I forget what it was, and when you scan the QR code, you got like you were opting into text message. You scanned it and then it was like put in your phone number here to get the code. And it was awesome. And it went out on all the and think about somebody picks up a super in a grocery store and whatever, where all of a sudden like they might have never actually engaged with the brand. And now they're on the SMS list and they got some type of code and you got them 100%. On the site where that was my like creative one that I really loved.
Shout out Tiffin.
Shout out Tiffin.
It was a smart way to bridge offline to online.
Yeah, and now he's the founder of Aisle, which is bridging online to So really he was the pioneer doing that.
He had those ideas.
Right.
That is awesome.
That's a great one. Another few ideas that come up for me, I mean, we spoke about this, but quiz flows and landing pages are a really great way, especially because more and more we're seeing people deploy like paid spend directly towards landing pages or quiz flows, and collecting opt-ins there is like great and natural. We've seen people require a phone number submission in order to like get the results of the quiz. That's a great way to do it.
That's great.
Because people are, by then they're at the end and they want their results. Like, I want to know what shampoo you're recommending to me. I want to know really badly. I'll give
And
you
what
my
better
phone
way
number.
to send the results to your phone versus like the email, right? Which will
Totally.
get lost. Yeah.
So those are good examples. We've seen if brands are associated with a celebrity or have a potent social following, we've seen people drive opt-ins on social. We're also
That's interesting.
with either a keyword like text this to this, or with a link to a landing page that collects phone numbers. We've seen that. The other thing that I always talk about this, my absolute favorite opt-in mechanism is brands who use Postscript's Klaviyo integration. And what they do is in their email footers, they target people who haven't opted in to SMS yet, because we sync that data back and forth with Klaviyo, and they show a like opt-in ad at the bottom of their emails only to people who haven't opted in. That's like join our VIP list. And once they opt in, it disappears. That's just like passive printing money. That's just like found subscribers. So that's one I like. And the last one that is like just starting to percolate. It's super early. I rarely speak to people about this, but we're starting to get some interest from more advanced users about using Facebook lead generation ads to build SMS lists.
Interesting.
And doing this compliantly, it requires like a very high bar. You like really need to ensure like explicit opt-in and the right language. But that's an interesting way people are starting to think about just scaling spend to scale their list.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, it almost becomes a new acquisition strategy too.
Yeah.
Those are awesome examples. I'd love to touch on like, I think in this climate where we're obviously seeing rising CACs, which has now been, I think we've been talking about it now for a couple of years, right? You know, even when we touch on subscriptions, right? The role of how you guys are seeing retention play in a lot of these companies. I'd love to understand if there's like a couple of examples you can draw on where people are utilizing like email, SMS, and subscription as like separate buckets or like marketing channels. Because to me, as a question is like, well, what do I, if I send this on email, what do I send? Do I send the same messaging, just different timing on SMS? Or should it just be like a totally different like Hail Mary play here? And then even like subscription, right? It's like you have the offer already right up there. How are you going to talk to these subscribers differently via SMS? Because they technically got the best offer on site already, right? Which is subscribe and save. And that is typically beats out the email pop-up, et cetera. So I'm just curious, like any interesting strategy or tactics there when you're looking at the three platforms and how to communicate with each of those, I guess, channels?
Yeah. So I'll tell you something that's top of mind for me, specifically for email and SMS, which I think is like a false narrative that's been creative, which is that they need to like fit together perfectly. Okay. And here's what I mean. I think people are nervous about sending a text to someone that they email.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think if we pause and we think about that a little bit, that makes complete sense to us marketers, right? We're like, I've already spoken to that potential buyer. Like, why would I want to speak to them again? Right. But then if we think about how we actually shop and buy, we do not actually shop and buy that way.
No.
We do not, humans, Americans do not shop and buy because we got the ad and we went to the website and then we filled out the pop-up and then we got the email and then we clicked and then we bought. That's not how we buy. We are running all over the internet all the time, clicking and opening tabs, seeing things different places, getting like getting a YouTube ad for remarketing that reminded us of something, and then a friend texted to us and we clicked the link and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, Taylor Holiday had like a great like graphic or rant about this where he was like, that's not how we buy. We don't buy in like perfect funnels. Funnels are good for visualizing, but we buy just by running all over the internet all the time, opening a million tabs and finally buying. And with that, what's important for brands and marketers is to engage in like the most sophisticated multi-channel marketing that they can, and touching people through as many high engagement channels as they can when they have a valuable message. And so I think people try to over-coordinate SMS and email instead of thinking about how do I maximize the return of each channel. Because I think that the majority of the time, here's the perfect example of this. We hear all the time from people that say, I don't want to send a text to people who've clicked the email that I sent them earlier today.
Yeah, we've said that before.
And I'm like, no, that's exactly who you want to send a text to. You want to send a text to every single person who clicked the email. And I think that like just as marketers, we've gotten in our own way a little bit there. Versus pulling back and think about how we shop.
It's true. Like even you think about like, because it's cross channel, so people are like, oh no, but like an abandoned cart email. Or abandoned cart text message. The whole concept is somebody was like right there and they just needed one more push.
Yes.
Where like for some reason we're like, but they saw the email. It's like we can't possibly push them on
like,
SMS as well.
That's when you want to hammer them.
Yeah.
It's like when they're closest. Yeah, I definitely. That makes sense. That's a good way to message it to someone.
No, that's awesome. I do want to jump to like future of SMS, retention, and from your guys' thoughts. But before I do, I'd love an example from both of you guys, if you can. Just something peculiar or unconventional one of your brands have done in the SMS or email or retention space. And I'll start with obvious with one, so you guys so I don't put you completely on the spot. But we did this like crossword puzzle in one of our emails, and it was like, fill out this crossword puzzle, and if you in this one part of that section, if you fill out this part of the crossword puzzle, that's going to be your discount code.
I love that. I love that.
And it was one of our highest performing campaigns till date.
Are you going to do more like game-esque
I
things
think
after that?
So now we're thinking about, let's do a word search, right? Like let's like, if you get these people to spend, and it kind of like struck me from like, it was like, time on email is not something we think about, but if you do think about it, it makes sense. Like time on site means there's probably a higher affinity.
Yeah.
But time on email we don't measure, or time on SMS we don't measure, right? If you can get that metric to work or think or like push through there, like even if you think about it on an SMS, like here's a riddle for you, right? Solve this and the answer is the discount code or whatever it may be. I just think like that was like super interesting for us because it's just like weird. And the only reason we thought about it is we got one. Yeah. And we're like, that's cool. I would love any cool examples that you guys have seen, because or seen brands work or not, but like just cool things to try.
I love that. There was like years. I think we also did at Lunar. I forget what brand it was, but it was like 5 days of games or something. Or I don't know if it was crossword, but I know there was like a Hangman one. There was stuff like that, like type of graphics where it was really good engaging emails that worked really well.
Yeah.
I remember another company that was doing a flavor launch, and they kind of like, behind the scenes, it was like, we need something to talk about for the next month and a half because we don't have anything until this thing coming up.
Right.
And they were like, what if we did like a guessing game? And it was actually done with PostScript over text, and they had people guessing in. And if you guessed, like there was a keyword that was set up that like actually triggered back the flavor. So it was like right back the flavor you think that we're coming out with, and there were hints.
Also great inspiration of things that were guessed that aren't on the roadmap. You can
yes, because they got everything where like they saw what people wrote in, and then they started dropping like hints like as it got closer. And again, like you got this text that was, I don't know, an early access code, a discount code, something like that was the keyword response. If you texted back the flavor that they were launching, where I thought that was a really cool way to keep people engaged.
That's sweet.
And build hype in a way that wasn't just like, we have a new thing coming out. Like,
what comes to mind for me right now is some stuff that Dr. Squatch does.
Okay.
They have a really strong brand voice, especially for being a company that large. They really haven't let go of like having a pretty potent, strong brand. And the person that sends texts from Dr. Squatch is named Chad. Not like the actual human. They have a whole retention team who's great. But like the character that they've created to send texts is called Chad. And in general, I think that's something that like a lot of brands could think about. It doesn't have to be silly like Chad. It could be like a serious prompt person who's available if you need support, right? It can be themed however. But it's named Chad, and they do a lot of marketing, but they also do some fun stuff sometimes. And one of the things that's happened between what they do with that brand voice and then some of the results of the SMS sales product we have that they use that's also like under the title of Chad is that if you go onto the Dr. Squatch subreddit, there's a ton of instances of people screenshotting their conversations with Chad over SMS and being like, Chad's crazy. like Chad's wild. And it's all really positive. But they're like, look, Chad hooked me up with like $5 off of soap. And it's like, they've, so cool. By really leaning into brand voice, their community is like actually talking to each other about what's happening on retention channels. That's pretty cool.
That's really, really cool. That's a great example. I think it's weird because it's like, we treat these channels as like almost has to feel robotic, but at the same time, there's still a human sending it, a human's crafting it, a human's designing it. So why, when we like send it, does it have to almost feel like it needs to be robotic? We did another thing that was like kind of interesting too. We did it between email and SMS, which was we showed a before and after of a woman, and we actually made people respond back and guess how much weight she actually lost, but by seeing the before and after. And the point of what we were trying to do was it wasn't that she had lost a lot of weight, she had lost a lot of inches. Okay. And so it was like a 2-part series. It was like, okay, send in your guesses. We'll reveal the answer in the next email and SMS. And what we got to tell people was like, hey, whether or not your answer was right or wrong, the truth is many of you were wrong because you looked at weight loss as just this number, but rather she didn't lose a lot of weight. She lost a lot of inches. And it was a really cool way to get people involved, but actually make someone feel like, oh yeah, there's somebody like talking to me about this. And I'll still be very honest. Like, we then went right back to our robotic ways of like all the other campaigns, but it's like, I don't know why it's like, I feel like we need more instances where we're treating these channels as human or as close to a human. It's a great example of the chat piece.
Ron, do you see, I know that you have this like engaged Facebook community too, right? Is there crossover there? Do you guys, pull instances of UGC from there, or will you like, use that as a place to get feedback that then you guys plug into retention? Like, how does that come into play?
It's really weird. And I think we've done a poor job at this is we've not been able to cross affiliate the channels of Facebook group to an email SMS group. Like, it's almost like the Facebook group people, they'll buy when we engage in there and drop a link in there and whatnot. But it's almost like that's not the group that will buy through the email or SMS. And it's almost like there's like this discommunication of like we'll actually send out an email SMS for launch something, and like we'll then post it in the community maybe 2 or 3 days later, and we'll just, because we're testing different things, and majority of them will be like, oh my God, no way. It's almost like they're not getting this email or whatever it may be, or they're so used to just using their truth as the community to where they've learned to ignore some of the other things. And we've just done a poor job of that, but we draw a lot of stuff from the community to fuel our email SMS content. Cool. But I don't think we've done a good job marrying the channels. Which I think it's tough.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge for sure. And I think that at some point that's like a little natural. Right? Like, people are going to engage with the brand in different ways, and they get in that habit.
100%. Like I know me as a shopper, one of my favorite brands is like it's called Mad Happy. It's like the sweatshirt company. And like they send like a bunch of email and SMS and whatnot. But the weird thing is, the only time I will shop is like when I catch one of their Instagram photos and they have like Instagram shop, and I'm like, damn, I kind of like this. I'll just buy this. And I've bought all of my purchases from them on Instagram shop. But I get their email, I get their SMS, and I was like fully tuned out. And they do a great job. They're a great brand and all that, but it's just weird how we all shop. I know we're coming up on time. I'd love to get just a little bit of kind of maybe the vision forward. Whether you guys want to touch on like the retention piece or SMS in specific, what is the future look like? Obviously, heavy reliance seems to be the trend, and people are making more way for it. But what does the future look like, both for you guys and how you guys are building when it comes to this world of retention SMS?
Well, speaking of the future and new exciting things, we actually have a feature that launched today.
Congratulations.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. You heard it here first. Actually, you'll probably hear it on LinkedIn before you hear this episode. removing like friction. Like when for you, Instagram like just makes sense when you're buying from Mad Happy. There are other people that love to just buy from text messages or buy from email or buy from whatever. So we noticed that, and we built these like quick URLs now that you can drop right into PostScript. So like within Stay, you can go in, you can be like, okay, hey, I want to build like a quick URL in a PostScript automation, and I want it to add product, and I want to add this product to their subscription, or I want them to be able to delay their order 1 week, or I want them to do whatever. And then you can put these like quick little URLs in, and the customer gets the text. They can just click on it, put in the 4-digit code that it sends them for security, and it's like the action's done. They don't have to go and then take that action.
Super interesting.
Yeah, so we were kind of like looking at customer behavior. We've been studying a lot of brands like positive versus negative actions in the customer portal. So think a positive action is like get it now, add product, swap, like things like that, where a negative is like cancel, skip, pause, those types of things. And we've been studying the brands that have more positive actions than negative actions. Typically brands have more negative actions. And we saw that they're engaging with email, they're engaging with SMS, like they're telling people add this to your upcoming order, like do this action. So I'm pretty excited about it. That's awesome. See how really people start to put these like these URLs into their flows and see if it really we can increase the positive actions.
It becomes a targeted action, right? Yeah. That's really, really cool.
I think that my perspective on this is admittedly a little bit more SMS centric, but I think things are still really early. I think that we're going to see a ton of innovation in the next 24 months around list growth. I think that like new list growth modalities are still going to pop up and appear and help people grow their lists way faster. Like we're working on a bunch, I bet other players are too. And I think that the way brands grow their lists is going to look radically different 6 months to a year from now. And I think they're going to be growing way faster. That's one. I also think that, I've gone on other podcasts and I've talked about how I think that like we're zagging when it comes to AI, or that I think that like AI and SaaS is being a little overhyped. And the reason that I've said that, and the reason that I still believe that, is because I think that what we've seen with generative AI is that really it's like software that's good at predicting the next most likely word. It's not like a brain that thinks. And so I think that there's been this rush from SaaS to like cram AI into their products, even if it doesn't actually create a lot of value. And so I've been a little bit of a hater. But when you talk about text messaging, like when you think about sending like short form texts and then what these AI tools are built to do, there is a lot of opportunity there to, sure, is there opportunity to save marketers time? Of course. But I think the bigger opportunity is creating helping marketers create higher performing creative, helping marketers send the right message at the right time to the right consumer, doing that in scalable ways that haven't existed before. And so I think that list growth is going to look entirely different. And I think that the actual like marketing tooling that marketers use is also going to evolve so much, and we're going to see SMS become a bigger and bigger piece of the overall revenue pie.
Great comments. Great points too, but from both of you guys. I think one point on what you just mentioned too is like we undervalue ideation, and I think that the reason is it's like inherently always been like, oh yeah, like just come up with an idea and then like process it and we'll test it. And now I think we're moving towards where like you see the value people put into content now, and like scripting and like making sure that this content for that's come from this person is thought through. Or even when you look at CRO, right? Like agencies are charging just for ideas of what to test, right? And it's like, I think it's coming from the idea, from the whole element of like that marketers also dry up, and so like I think that's where it's going to be super powerful, where it's like, just expand on my mind, like give me more of just variations of what I've thought of, but give me 20 more instead of just 2 more that I can think of. So it's going to be super powerful. It's awesome. Well, like tradition, I think one thing we love to do is would love for both of you to give the viewers one takeaway. You guys gave a lot, but if you had to give the viewers one thing to chew on after this episode, what's that one thing everyone should go home and do?
My chew for today is to go into your Stay account and use and at least pick one URL, one of these like new smart or quick URLs to put in one of your flows to just like help get customers through, remove friction, get them to add an additional product to their upcoming subscription, get them to delay their order instead of skipping it, whatever makes
What's your
sense.
prediction of which SKU is going to, which link is going to be probably the most useful?
I think add item with discount is like my favorite. It just is so easy. You just think about anybody who's an active, you're a Burn subscriber and you just, hey, flash sale, you can add this to your upcoming order, take 50% off, whatever SKU this month. And you just fire that text message off and so.
That's great.
I think that's a good tip. I would have a similar chew, which is optimize your S program for your active subscription base. Segment them out, speak to them differently, set up all the standard flows like we're talking about. So many people with subscription programs don't do that. It's so cheap, it's low volume, but very high ROI.
Chew on that.
If you want more from us, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and check out the website chewonthis.io.